Hey everyone, welcome into This Is the Bet with Brandon and Tanner. It's been a minute. We had a bye week this past week for BYU. We had some things going on. We were both end up in St. George for the marathon. Our wives were running the races. And Tanner, how was your bye week overall?
It was good. I watched a lot of good games. Notre Dame was a fun one to watch, so I kept up on football, even though I was not watching the Cougars. But it is a little sad when you don't get to watch them. But the bye weeks are really important, especially BYU's spot where they go into possibly one of the toughest remaining schedules in college football, and
Yeah.
so hopefully they used it to really prepare for TCU. When you have a bye week, you really should be the team that comes in just ready to rock and roll. You know every aspect of the team you're going to play, put it into, and we'll see if they can do that.
Yeah, some good football over the weekend. Like you mentioned, Texas, Oklahoma. Kind of a shocker there. I didn't expect Texas to lose this year, and Oklahoma goes in and upsets them. So yeah, we play both those teams later in the year. Speaking of hard schedules, those are both going to be really tough games. And I feel like this bye week kind of came at the right time. BYU, a couple injuries, but also just some time to maybe reflect and figure out how they can get that run game going. I was looking; they rank 129th out of 130 right now, so second to last in running yards per game. So hopefully over the bye week they're able to kind of figure those things out. Supposedly Aiden Robbins might be coming back, and he might be healthy. It's possible he was never healthy to start the year, so seeing him maybe be involved a little bit. I think LJ is still the guy, but maybe you get him in some touches. What do you think about this matchup? What do you think of, I guess we can talk about TCU's game last week against West Virginia. What stood out to you there? Anything? Did you get to see the box score or watch any of that?
Um, that one I looked into, but given a week, have forgotten what went into
Yeah.
that one. I'm more up to date on that Iowa State game most recently, which I think gives us kind
Oh
of
yeah, sorry.
a look into how they're going to play. Um, Going off most recently, because something interesting is I ran the numbers um, last week before they had this Iowa State game, and they were coming in to play BYU. Had they played before they played Iowa State, it was looking like an 11-point favorite for TCU. And I think a lot
Mm.
of that has changed due to the quarterback switch because of injury. Uh, what was it? 4 interceptions against Iowa State.
Yeah.
So uh, dropping from the 11 to the 6 we see now. But I think that Iowa State game left a lot of people questioning a lot about TCU. This was a team coming off a national championship run, and you know they're they're still a very talented team. I'm not sleeping on this one at all for BYU. This is, as we said, still favored by 6, and in fact may still have a huge edge on BYU. I don't know how you kind of see this one
Yeah.
playing out, but what stood out to you with TCU? What's going right?
Yeah, that's my bad. I totally thought they played West Virginia last week,
Oh, you're
but
good.
that was the week before. They played Iowa State. Both were losses, so they're coming off back-to-back losses. West Virginia actually looks okay. Iowa State not quite as good as a team, and they lost 24 to 17, kind of trailing the whole game. Like you mentioned, Chandler Morris, he got hurt in that game, but he wasn't playing that well anyways. But he did get hurt, and he was their starter to begin the year last year before going out, and now once again has I think an MCL injury, so he's for sure not playing this week. And I believe they have their freshman Hoover. Is it Hoover?
Yeah.
Right. He'll be playing this week, and he came into the game last week. Threw for one touchdown, one interception, a little over 100 yards, and he looked pretty good. He's athletic, but I just don't know if BYU's coming off a rested week, and then TCU's coming off two back-to-back losses. I just kind of look at this TCU team as maybe somebody who there's two ways it could go. They could be really kind of wanting to get back on track and kind of be angry about the two losses, or they could be kind of down in the dumps and maybe a little bit like demotivated. I guess, what are your thoughts on that, Tanner? Do you think they're kind of down in the dumps, or are they looking to get back on track against BYU?
Yeah, so people have talked about this as a rivalry game.
Yeah.
Not playing each other for quite a couple years. I don't know if we'll see uh, any sort of bad blood between these
Yeah.
teams, but I was a little worried coming off the Cincinnati win for BYU. I never like wins where it feels like your team kind of got almost lucky. I won't say lucky because they did a lot of good things against Cincinnati, but it's a worrisome thing to see the other team lose the game for themselves and you get a win, especially going into a game against TCU, whose offense is gonna, turnovers may play a big factor, but I'm glad we had the bye week to kind of settle down and not get too big on the win against Cincinnati. If I was the coach after that Cincinnati game, I would have said, "Hey, great job, we won the game, but here's everything that went wrong, and we could have been out of that game so easy had they not thrown a bad interception and had they not muffed the punt." And just really getting them down to earth, because I think BYU really needs that coming into this TCU game. They got to come out and just fake it till you make it, right? Pretend like, you know what, we're going to be the dominant team in this game against TCU. Because beginning of the year, I chalked this one up to a guaranteed loss simply because of the explosiveness of TCU's offense and not knowing where our offense was going to be, especially seeing against Sam Houston. So I think BYU just needs to come out and find ways to own not only the air attack, but we talked about, and I don't know if you can do it, figure something out with the rush game. What can we do because we know TCU will run it. What can we do to counteract that, not only on defense, but on offense, find our own run game, establish that also through the air. If you have that play action attack, that can be really great for us, but you have to be able to run the ball to run the play action. And so if you're not, then teams are like, okay, how can we defend the pass because the run is not there? So that's where I come into this. I think BYU needs to come out and be the dominant team. And that could be, I just have PTSD with TCU. In 2009, I watched them beat us 38-7.
Yeah.
I laughed.
I was there at that game.
Yeah, I was too. The only good thing that happened in that game was some nice old man in front of me and my brother bought us ice cream and hot dogs, and I ate those as I watched BYU get absolutely murdered. So we'll see with this game.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned TCU maybe being a rival. I don't feel that way, but there is some previous history with them, so maybe I could see why people say it. And they've said they don't want to sell tickets to BYU fans, so
yeah, that was a little
maybe that makes us a little bit more motivated to win. I still think there's going to be a lot of BYU fans there. You can buy tickets second market pretty easy. I was looking today. There's tickets as cheap as $23.
Yeah.
So anybody in that area that's a Cougar fan will probably be there. But like you mentioned, I think BYU, this game feels winnable. It does. We both chalked it up for a pretty much guaranteed loss when we were doing our predictions. Not only at the start of the season, but even before Big 12 play started, we were saying, going to TCU, going to Fort Worth, probably not going to happen. But now Chandler Morris is out, so they're on their backup quarterback. Offense is kind of sputtering. We were kind of saying they were explosive to start the season, putting up 40-plus against Colorado, really scoring. But against West Virginia, 21 points, kind of performance. And then last week against Iowa State, granted, Iowa State's defense is pretty good, but still only 14 points. So we'll see if their offense can get back on track. And I guess Hoover will have a week under his belt kind of practicing being the guy. So hopefully that helps him. I mean, not for us, but hopefully it helps him, be more prepared. But yeah, BYU can get the running game going and kind of be more balanced. That's the key, and we're going to keep saying that. It's been like the fourth week, I think, we've been saying the running game needs to get going. But I was watching, I just want to bring this up before maybe we get into predictions, but I was watching Locked On BYU. Great show. So if he's watching, shout out. But he had a question where is BYU closer to 5-0 or 2-3? And I just want to know your take on that. So are they closer to being 5-0, getting that win at Kansas, or are they closer to 2-3 and maybe losing against Cincinnati and Arkansas? I don't know if you watched that
I
episode.
listened to it as well. Yeah, great
Yeah.
question. And I had to agree with him on being closer to that 2-3, simply because, like I said, the only win I feel we took care of business. Well, there's two, and it's the two wins against Sam Houston and SUU. Right?
Yeah.
Sam Houston, the defense showed, okay, we deserve to win. SUU, the offense said, we're showing up, we're getting it done. Every other game in between that has been, well, Arkansas felt.
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like it's more 3-2, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I could quite say 2-3 because that Arkansas win, it felt like we deserved that one.
Yeah. Well, even it's tricky because you look at Kansas, and had we not shot ourselves in the foot, we win that game.
Yeah.
We were making things happen. We were finding ways to answer questions that we had in other ways, whether that be with Slovis. So it's a tough question because I steer more towards the other side of the Cincinnati game. Cincinnati probably should have won it. And that's what's the most scary is that BYU it feels like they're not limping, but with no run game, and there's just I don't know. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I lean towards 2-3 too because it feels like it's kind of lucky that we're 4-1, having like the worst run offense in the nation or second to worst. So it's actually good that we're 4-1 because if we can figure out the run game, then we haven't really unlocked our best football yet. And I think it can happen. We just gotta see it. And maybe against TCU, maybe that's the game, and maybe it's not, and maybe it's against somebody else. But what are your predictions for this one? BYU going into Fort Worth on the road. It's 1:30 p.m. start Mountain Time, so an afternoon game. What are your predictions for this one? Yeah, I know.
Just chalk it up to an L. But those day games, they just. We'll move on.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it, looking at the projections of some power ratings, and it's right around 6 and 7. I think that's fair. That's just giving TCU that credit of, yes, their quarterback is out, so that brings it down from 11, but yet the offense still finds ways to run. If they're
going to lean on the run game.
They're going to have to with the quarterback, or show that, like Max Duggan last year, they've got some depth in the quarterback position, and maybe he comes out a little more poised.
Maybe he's even better. I mean, as BYU fans, we've seen that so many times where, our starter struggles and everybody calls for the backup, and then he has an amazing game.
Yeah.
So
I never in the quarterback position, but elsewhere. I mean, our quarterbacks. Well, I don't know. I don't know what.
Do you remember
but
no, but I'm saying like in past years where, Tanner Mangum struggles and then Zach Wilson comes in.
You did have the Zach Wilson Tanner Mangum balance. I forgot about that.
And then you had Riley Nelson back in the day coming in as a backup, and
yes.
So
it is there. It is there.
Maybe not this season, but
I've got TCU in this one. It's a very winnable game for BYU, but this is you got to give credit to TCU's coach. He's going to find a way to coach them up in this game. It's winnable for BYU, but I've got TCU. I'd put it to cover the spread and to come. I'm worried it may feel similar to the Kansas game of winnable, but BYU finds ways to lose it for themselves and just doesn't really have an answer for TCU. One thing TCU is doing good right now, if this is up to date when I refreshed it, third downs, 45% on third downs, BYU at 34%. So almost 50% for TCU. It may be a frustrating day for the Cougars where TCU continues to extend drives on running plays. And BYU just can't can't get an answer for that. So that's my prediction.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think this is a game that BYU, they either show up and they dominate or they struggle and it's a long day. If the defense can kind of hold them on third down conversions, like you mentioned, that was a point that I was thinking of bringing up was, 45%. It was a 45, right?
Yeah, it's at 45,
Yeah.
but BYU themselves on defense allowing
Yeah.
teams only 32. So
Yeah. I think the only game we really struggled with third down conversions was against Cincinnati, and when Emory Jones was just escaping the pocket, and I swear, just
Yeah.
converting those third downs.
12 yards, 16 yards up the middle. It's just what
So-
the heck.
I'm not sure what Hoover's ability is with his legs. I haven't heard that he's like a dual threat guy. I don't think he is. Let me look at what he rushed for against Iowa State.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
that.
He didn't run the ball at all. He
Okay.
2 carries, negative 16 yards, and that's just probably some sacks. And I think in college they counted that way. So if that's not an issue, I could see BYU being pretty good on third down. So maybe it kind of evens out. But I have TCU winning this game, but I have BYU covering as my take.
Oh, wow.
I think it's a pretty close game where BYU is going to kind of feel in it the whole time, but maybe never feel like they might never feel in control of the game, but they might always feel like there's a chance they can turn something. And I have like a final score of 28-24,
Okay.
which would be under just barely on that. I think that 53 is like right on the money. I think it's going to be somewhere around there, 28-24, 31-27. Could be any of those, but I have the under for right now. And then do you have like a dominant win by TCU, or do you think it's just kind of like
No.
Kansas where they lose by 11? Feels like
Yeah.
it could be winnable. What do you
That's
have?
my worry. If it's a dominant TCU win, then there's already been some just the Big 12 right now feels like each week you go into it and the team that struggled last week gets the win.
Yeah.
We saw Oklahoma State just beat Kansas State. We saw Iowa State beat TCU. So it just feels very much like, well, I was definitely wrong. Given this is my first year watching the Big 12
Yeah.
as a conference, following it very closely. And so I, in my brain, had different expectations for teams based on names, but it feels like a dog.
Other
fight
people
right
did
now.
too. I mean, other people had expectations for Kansas State and teams like Texas Tech that
Yeah,
just
we
haven't
talk
panned
about
out.
our dark
Yeah.
horse Texas Tech. How's that working out? Not good
Yeah.
for me. But
They
So-
did get the win last week, but yeah.
if it's a blowout win for TCU, that just would open so many more questions of just a lot. And then I would be willing to bet against BYU in every day game for the rest of my life if that's the
Yeah.
case, because it will really prove a point that BYU just can't get it done in a day game. So, I want to win on a day game. Let's get it. Gosh.
Night games at home, automatic win. It's going to be a win, and then day games on the road. You just know
Holy
it's.
cow. Oh,
I wonder when's the last day game they've actually won on the road. That'd be interesting to
I
look
know
up.
Greg Rebell tweeted it out. It was something just terrible.
The last one I can think of, like, and actually remember, is Wisconsin when they upset
Yeah.
them at Wisconsin.
Yeah,
That was the
a
last
day
big day game they won.
Well, another day game, if I'm remembering right, was Nebraska with
Yep.
the Hail Mary, but that was under Bronco. It wasn't
Yeah.
the Wisconsin game. Was that under?
that was Kalani.
Okay,
Yeah, that was.
So you can chalk him up to that one. So
Yeah, but they.
day games.
Good news though. They announced the start time for the Texas Tech game in Provo, 5 p.m. So
There we go.
it's not 8:15, but it's still going to be a night game. So
Still will be under the lights later.
Yep.
Oh, that's good.
But-
That's good.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one turns out. I'm excited to watch it because I think BYU, of course, we're going to be going in thinking they have a chance, and if they don't get off to a slow start like they have in the past, then they have a good chance to win this one. I guess last thing is you were talking about if they lose or get blown out, it's going to open a lot of wounds. What's Cougar Nation feeling if they lose this game? Who are they calling to get fired? Aaron Roderick, Jay Hill? Are they going to call for Slovis to get benched. What's your predictions?
It's gonna be, if anything, if it'll be with the run game. If it's non-existent again, it's gonna be. We already have chalked it up to like probably can't fix it, but in the back of your mind, you hope that all of a sudden we get a 200 plus game and it's like they figured it out. So I think, and everyone will continue to call for a change in offensive line and just wonder like what's going on with people switching positions. How
Yeah,
have we not figured this out? So I bet it would be the run game. I bet it's another week of a 65 and just where are we? In fact, this could be one where we get the 25 or something. Something. If it was a bad blowout, it would be that, and it'd be the joke of
yeah.
for a couple of years of the run game is just
Yeah. I agree with you because I don't think it's the running backs that are necessarily the problem.
no.
Just seems like the offensive line can't get things going. So
I bet
yeah,
we'll
it could
see a
be
change
offensive
in
line
the
coach.
offensive line coach into the
They've already
season.
swapped some guys around on the line, like as far as personnel and players, but I think yeah, people will be calling for the coach or some kind of change in the offensive line. I don't know who else they have on the bench, but maybe something happens.
These are our talent guys. This was
Yeah.
what we were.
This is supposed to be the best line
Yeah,
ever.
there was no question of this. Well, there was a question of can they put it together with so much talent, and we're seeing maybe not this year, but yeah, tough.
And then I guess on the opposite end, just to close it out on a positive note, what's Cougar Nation feeling if they win this game?
If we win this one, right, then we're one
And it looks
away.
good. Let's say it looks good too.
We win this game, we're one away from a bowl game, and Slovis delivers another just air raid. We see Roberts. Uh, I'd like to see Epps back. I know his
Yeah.
hamstring. Let's get him just one game of like nothing. It doesn't re-aggravate, and Cougar Nation is just pumped up on one win away, coming into a big game against Texas Tech. Let's keep the energy because Texas Tech's going to be an air raid that they're going to try to throw at us. So that would be my hope for Cougar Nation is that's what happens, and we're just high on the Cougars again because they turned up. The fans all came to the Cincinnati game, and it did feel like the Kansas game was it's not quickly forgotten, but it's at least on the back burner because we got to win, and we can see some wins in big games. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think Cougar Nation is going to be feeling pretty good if they win. They're going to be calling to be ranked,
and you
for
know,
sure.
if we win this game and then squeak one out against Texas Tech, you're going to have the people like I heard one time in line at BYU. They're going to say, Texas is next, right? I remember hearing one guy in line for something saying, this was a year ago, he was saying, this is the national championship year for BYU. So we know there are those
The blue goggles.
the rah that if we win these next two, it's going to be like, well, Texas is next. We can do it. This is the year. And
I'll be one of them, dude. I'll be one of them.
Oh, but you're high on Texas, which would be
I
interesting
am.
to hear your opinion on Texas because I know you've been pretty high on them. But
Yeah, but if BYU is, let's see, 6-1 going to Texas, and Texas is 6-1,
ooh,
it'd be hard not to get hyped.
call it the
and you're going to be
River-
there.
the Blue River rivalry,
Yeah.
baby.
And they want revenge because Taysom Hill embarrassed them the last time we played them.
Yes, he did with the herd.
But-
So
No, yeah, I think if we get the win this week, then Texas Tech, that's a big game, homecoming game, night game. It'll be loud. So
yeah, it'll be a good game.
okay, we'll for sure see everybody again for a post game. Hopefully, all smiles. But go ahead and comment below what your prediction is. Give us a score prediction in the comments. We love to hear what you guys think. Maybe we don't know who this Hoover guy is. Maybe somebody went to high school with him and can tell us a little bit about him. So, anything else to add, Tanner?
No, that's it. Thank you for listening. It really does mean a lot to us.
Okay, we'll see you guys on the next one.